podcast. My name is Erin Tatum, and I'm the community manager for the Disability Leadership Collective. My pronouns are she and her. I'm a white woman with glasses who's also using a wheelchair, and I'm wearing a floral sweater. And today I'm here with Abbie Hills, who's the founder of Dazey Talent. Abbie, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. My name's Abby. I'm a white woman with black hair. I'm wearing a red jumper with a bunch of like logos on it. And my pronouns are she, her.
Awesome. Well, today we're here to talk about a very important topic that's one of my favorites, which is disability representation in the media.
Cool. I'm ready.
So, I know you obviously have an established career in entertainment, but what initially drew you to the industry?
Hmm. Oh, I think I was a bit of a show off when I was a kid, or everyone tells me that I am. I wanted to be an actor. When I was a little kid, I was always like putting on shows, making up dance routines and all that stuff. And once you do that once as a kid, that never leaves you, right? So I don't know. I like in school and then college and then uni, I was just like film and TV, film and TV, film and TV. That's what I'm doing. And like the lens changed a little bit. It went from acting to doing bits of modeling to filmmaking to working in costume. And then I just went round and went into talent management because that felt like the kind of most organic step. But I think once you kind of if you've got the brain that like gets switched onto showbiz and you get excited by it, I think like you'll do anything to make it work. And I think that's what happened to me.
I think that also speaks so much to the artistic perspective as well. I feel as though people who have an artistic mind really will just do anything to pursue those endorphins and pursue that feeling, because I feel as though, I mean, it's self-explanatory, but creatives feel the best when they're creating.
Totally. And Erin, honestly, like if I worked in any other industry, I'm very lucky to work in this industry, but if I ever worked in another industry, I'd be so bored. I'd be so bored. I really love it.
And that's why self-awareness is important. You're not inflicting your boredom on any other industry because you chose to pursue your passion, which is more than can be said for a lot of other people. So you should definitely be proud of yourself.
Thank you.
Um, so when you started your work as a talent agent, and just so the audience's background, you're also a woman with cerebral palsy. So how did you sort of approach your work with the disability, with your own disability informing your professional perspective and the way that you work with clients?
That's a really good question. Let me think. So I think that the first thing that I realized is that like despite everything I just said and like knowing I wanted to work in entertainment and stuff, like I had a lot of um stigma around being able to actually do it because I live with a disability and I was like, oh no one want to hire me and all these horrible things that actually do exist in our community now, I felt at the time. And I thought, oh, if there's a way that I can, do it, but work for myself, then that's brilliant. So kind of went and studied management and made myself equipped for it and then realized that I could set my own hours and all of that stuff. But then it kind of went a lot deeper. And I thought that if I am going to work as a talent manager, I want to nurture and support voices like mine. I want to nurture and support people from diverse backgrounds, people living with disability as well. Like I don't exclusively represent disabled talent, but it's very much a part of my like ethos and a part of what I'm passionate about, having that lived experience. And I say it in a joking manner, it is no joke, but like you can be the best actor in the world, but if you're not an ally, I'm not signing you. Like if you're not an ally to my community and our communities, then you're not going to be part of my agency because it really is like so important to me to have that and to have a community that is safe, empowering and supportive without, there's enough barriers in the world. You don't want to have to be worrying about the kind of people that you're working with as well, right?
That that is so true, because I also feel like within the media landscape, whether it be disability or deafness or hard of hearing or neurodivergence, um, difference, especially both presenting and non-presenting differences that create lived experiences, are just so often thought of as an afterthought in the industry, when really that shouldn't be the case because we're the largest marginalized group in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And the only marginalized group that you can become part of at any time, right?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, and I always say everyone should care about disability because anyone can become disabled. So
Yeah.
it really is the most universal, um, and cross-sectional identity because anyone can join it.
Amen.
Yep. And in your work, what have you noticed about the the state of disability representation within the media ecosystem?
Hmm. I mean, so I'm going to speak from the market in the UK. Obviously, like, I keep up with the stuff that's made in the States as well. But speaking from experience in the UK, I think there was like 3 years ago, there was a huge shift and pivot and like, okay, access is crucial. We're now supporting disabled talent. And there was like a bit of a boom in that. And then within that, there was sort of like a hot minute where having a disability became cool. And then, all of a sudden, people with disabilities were getting opportunities, but just as quickly as that happened, it stopped happening. We've got all kinds of threats to welfare cuts and things like that happening in our country at the moment. And I think that is obviously impacting the media as well, right? Because it's a mirror. Like people are making things about what's going on in the world. And I think there's also kind of been, I really hate to use the word trends, but it is trends. Like you'll find all of a sudden you'll find that all of a sudden they're starting to make loads of programs that feature autistic characters, or they're making loads of programs that feature wheelchair users. But like the huge disconnect is the fact that it is a trend. Like it's not just inclusive casting, it's not inclusive storytelling. Like it has to become a trend of something for it to actually happen. And I think that's one of the biggest issues that we're facing.
I think people need to understand that disability isn't a box to check on your form or within your show or program. It's people's real lives. So, in yearning for that authenticity of disabled representation, we're really just looking to see the reality we're already living reflected back at us, and not necessarily, for the tokenism, or to look at a program or an entity and be like, well, they included a disabled person, so like they're not canceled. I feel like the bar has to be higher.
Yeah, 100%. And it's so obvious when they do that, isn't it? It's so obvious when it's a box tick and the character has no depth, or like the for me, like the change that needs to happen isn't just like of course have disabled characters and write disabled characters into stuff, but write characters and then audition disabled actors, and then this character happens to have a disability. I think it doesn't always need to be to do with the narrative. Like we have to live with it every day. So imagine just getting to go to set and just being an actor and just having our disability alongside it, rather than like having our disability written into the storyline, making it a sad thing, making it this, making it that. Like, what if somebody could just have a character and then their disability is just part of it?
The last thing I wanna watch is a show where a disabled character's whole storyline is facing ableism, because I do that every
Yeah.
day. Yeah. So you the reason you watch a character is because you want to see a character either experiencing something that you identify with, or experiencing something that you want to live vicariously through, but you watch them for the whole spectrum of human experience, not just for one facet of their identity.
Exactly. And like people consume films and TV shows largely for like some kind of escapism, right? So why would we watch something that we're then not escaping? Because we're like, oh yeah, thanks for the reminder of what I have to live with every day. That's really cool. Like it's not it's not enjoyable. And sometimes I feel bad because I'm not keeping up with as many disability-led narratives as I should because I just find them super negative. And like, yes, I want to champion the actors and and the writers and everything and support it, but when it is just kind of gloomy or victim characters, I don't find that particularly empowering. I don't find it particularly entertaining, to be honest. So I think, yeah, like the writers need to have a bit more of a think and get some people living with disability writing the characters, because I guarantee that we will be able to write you some really fun characters and storylines. And then, oh yeah, their disabilities just in the background, you know?
Yeah, if I wanted to watch a disabled person suffer, I would look in the mirror. I don't need to turn to media to do that.
I'm sorry that that's so hilarious, but it's so matter of fact and it's so true. But it's just funny the way you said it. But like totally, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like that's the mark of good marginalized representation is when different facets of a character identity aren't relied upon as their storyline.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, like there's been a lot of discourse around plus size with women as well, in particular, and sort of moving away from making their weight like the central storyline. And you can just have plus size characters without mentioning their weight, and I feel like it's a similar thing for disability or neurodivergence.
Yeah, totally. Couldn't agree more.
How have you noticed the industry has been changing since you got in? I know you spoke a bit about the roller coaster of the trends and how disability can't be a trend, but how has the industry really evolved and where do you see it going from here?
Well, I was gonna say I'm really impatient, but I don't think it's just me. I think we're all really impatient, right? Like it's not enough to just be like, oh, we made a blockbuster with a wheelchair user. The industry's off the hook for a little bit. Like it doesn't really work like that. And I think because I work as a access coordinator as well, right? So I do go on to set and I support deaf, disabled, neurodivergent talent. But even with that, like I've had really busy periods and then I've had really quiet periods. And then it seems like, well, where's all the disabled talent then? On and off camera, actually. Like we've got to think about the crew and the production side of things as well. But more and more like people aren't even, especially if they're neurodivergent, like they're not disclosing because they're like, oh, I just want an easy day at work. When actually it's making it harder for themselves because they have to mask. But there's also this fear of like not being hired or not being rehired or being treated differently. And I think I don't know what the excuse is for things happening so slowly. I don't like for me it doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I think but really what I just said before and that like the trends and stuff, it's not good. It makes me quite uncomfortable, makes a lot of my friends uncomfortable. I mean, it's great when like somebody who has got that flavor of the month is being seen for loads of castings, but actually like what's that doing when the months that follow they're getting nothing because all of a sudden insert random disability here, like it's not seen as quote unquote cool in the industry at that time. Like it's really problematic.
I have many pet theories on this as a film major and both as someone who has been an entertainment journalist for 12 years, which is that I think that disability isn't seen as like a vital artery to the cultural heartbeat of the zeitgeist, which is just like a fancy and sophisticated way of saying disability isn't perceived as sexy and disability isn't perceived as cool, which are two qualities that you have to have as a community to be considered like a barometer of taste or a taste maker, which is silly because communities, as you were saying, are not trends and
Mm.
aren't meant to go in and out of vogue based on how worthy the mainstream deems them of social acceptance. But I feel like because those with disabilities are used so often as a stepping stone or a way to uplift non-disabled viewers to make them feel better about their own lives and their own flaws and their own choices until we have the privilege of existing with our own emotions and our own autonomy and singularity. It's never going to change.
Couldn't have said it any better. Yeah, that was amazing. Yeah. So true. And like disabled rage, am I right?
Oh, I know. Rage is like, to me, the most lustful emotion because it's one that I'm never justified in feeling, and
Yeah.
and so it's something that where you can look but never touch because
Hmm.
you're never allowed to be angry as a disabled person, and not to be niche, but especially as a disabled person that depends on others for caregiving, because you're always supposed to lead with gratitude and empathy for your caregivers, and paradoxically you're always supposed to put your caregivers' emotions first because they're helping you, but life doesn't always work like that. And so disabled rage is something that I feel intimately, and that I feel as though I can never touch it, but it's something that courses through my veins quite a bit, so it's a paradox to straddle.
Wow, yeah. I can't imagine what that's like. Yeah, what you said about having to put kind of their emotions and feelings before yours. That must be really challenging.
Yeah, and disabled people will tell you, especially when it's 24/7, because you
Mm.
never get a break and you always feel like you're performing every time you have to interact with them, and I can speak for myself and say that I'm always interpreting someone else's feelings and anticipating what their next move is going to be, because it's what you have to do to stabilize your care on a daily basis, let alone working on everything else and trying to balance professionalism and career and relationships. So it's a lot of work, and especially with with my mom dying right now, I feel like there's no time for disabled anger, and there's a lot of different layers to it as well, certainly because I'm experiencing cerebral palsy and I have for 30 years, but my mom has been experiencing ALS for only the past 8 months. So there's even a difference between terminal and non-terminal disabilities. So there's so many different dynamics just happening in my family alone, and it's a lot to interpret and navigate every day.
Wow, yeah, that is a lot. And like the kind of like the ultimate level of masking as well, right? When you've got so many different emotions and feelings going on.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I've always been the disabled person in my family, and obviously I don't pass. But with my mom being diagnosed and declining so quickly, it's like I've had to take on a new role in the family because I'm the youngest too. So in addition to being super protected as the disabled one, I'm also protected as the baby. So it's been kind of an interesting time to sort of really realizing, like, this is the rest of my life, and my life could go on for decades without necessarily having the structure that I've lived with or that I recognize as being safe or comfortable to move into in the future. So as much as I've masked my emotions before, now it's even more so because everything, rightfully as it should, is centering on my mom right now, but it's just a different mode to be in.
Wow, yeah.
So I feel like my whole house is like a disability case study. Um, and speaking of entertainment, ALS has been in the spotlight, unfortunately, because Eric Dane has it. He was
Mm.
diagnosed right before my mom, the Grey's Anatomy actor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's interesting because they seem to have similar progressions too, and that
Mm.
his is also progressing, quite rapidly, which is a shame because he's a fair bit younger than my mom. So I was hoping, especially because he has young kids, so I was hoping that it would move slower for him, but it's really terrible, and it really shows the amount of understanding that we need about terminal and progressive illnesses, as especially. But I'm proud of Eric Dane because he still wants to work, and he wants to bring ALS to every character he plays, so I think that's really admirable.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh, good for him.
Yeah, but I feel as though there are so many disability narratives that have yet to be captured. So I yearn for the day where the industry isn't just like, wow, we put one in a wheelchair. That's that for the day. Like, job done. Like, even within that experience, there are so many nuance and things. So I think we need more access coordinators like yourself who can really help performers strive to bring that visibility to the best of their ability, no pun intended.
Definitely. Yeah, it's kind of the same over here. It's like, oh, we've got someone with a mobility aid. Good job, team. Like, and that's the reality of it at the moment. I mean, we've had some really good projects surrounding deaf narratives and deaf characters. And in fact, we had a whole program like where the whole cast and crew, or like a huge majority of the cast and crew, were deaf or had experienced deafness, which for us is a real milestone. But that comes to mind because it's been one thing, it's like the case study, the showcase. It's not the norm at all.
That reminds me of in the States over here about 15 years ago, we had switched at birth, which was similar, where um the all of the hearing impaired characters were played by hearing impaired actors, and the hearing cast all learned ASL. So it was a really interesting show, and it's sad to say that that was 15 years ago. It's
Yeah.
like nothing has really like changed or evolved in the landscape. So it feels like all these shows are just kind of considered one-offs, but I wish the industry could gain more momentum going in terms of the authenticity of representation.
Me too. Me too.
Those were all of the prepared questions that I had, but I like to give our guests a little bit of the floor to kind of just do like an open conversation or bring up anything. How do you feel as though your work will sort of change in the next few years, and how do you envision what we perceive of as authentic portrayals really changing or sort of finally making it to screen?
Um, wow. I so I'm trying to think of this because I do so many things, right? I'm an agent access coordinator. I'm writing my own projects as well, which I'm trying to push and pursue. So different,
Oh yeah.
yeah, so the different lanes of that. So I guess next few years, my writing, which is they're never disability focused, but they have disabled characters, right? Obviously. I want to get them made.
Of
Um,
course.
as a talent agent, I want to be seeing more breakdowns and castings on a daily basis that are truly inclusive, not just like cherry picking bits, like being actually inclusive castings, um, and being open and being able to really propel my clients to do what they want to do without feeling like there's just endless struggle. And then as an access coordinator, the ideal situation is I work on so many projects, like super, super busy, and all my other access coordinator friends, they're super, super busy because everybody needs an access coordinator because there's demand anyway, right? Let's be clear on that. But people are realizing they need access coordinators in the States too. I'd love to come do some access work in the States. That'd be really, really cool. But then eventually, like late future, I don't work as an access coordinator anymore. And that might sound strange, but because in an ideal situation, then the inclusive culture will be so embedded in the production that you won't need a specialist to do it. Your teams will just be so aware and they'll be so ready to support disabled people, cast crew, anyone, catering, like, I don't know, facilities, like whoever's working on the show, like it's so embedded and everybody is so aware and it's such a normal part of the production that actually access coordinators aren't needed as much. So yeah, I mean that's kind of the headline. Short term workloads on what I care about and get the people doing what they love. And then yeah, that's where I'm at, I think.
Yeah, it's funny that we're in a place where you would hope that your primary job is eventually phased
Yeah.
out as a mark of progress.
Yeah, I know. It's wild to say. Like even when it comes out my mouth, I'm like, oh, it's a weird thing to say, but I said it because I believe it, and I think with an attitude switch, that could be the moment. I mean, I think you should always have somebody with eyes on access, but I think the emphasis of the role would change significantly because it would just be embedded in the culture of what's being made.
Yeah, and I feel like that's such an aspirational future where you don't need a specific person to like make sure that actors or crew with disability are having an okay time on set, and it's just naturally anticipated and handled within the course of the daily activity of the workday.
Hmm. For sure.
What do you think when you envision 10 or 15 years from now? How do you hope that the industry might change?
Ooh. Well, I mean, everything we've spoken about for a start, I think, yeah, I think that's the thing. I would love to see more disabled people in senior roles, like disabled showrunners, disabled exec producers, like more disabled Oscar winners, like big, like, off screen as well as on screen, but decision making, highly creative, influential roles. I think that will be the time that real change starts to happen.
That's a time that we can all wish for, and I know with both the U.S. and the U.K. experiencing really harmful and scary infringements on disability rights, sort of the media can be be an escape and a balm for that, which is to remind our community that we're still here, we're still showing up, and we're still important.
Yeah, absolutely. That seems like such a beautiful point to end on.
Of course, thank you so much, Abbie. This has been such a lovely conversation, and we look forward to having you back.
Oh, thank you, Erin. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you. And then I'll cut the recording.